Hey kids, welcome to the garage. Reverend is the latest game published by DOSman Games, the studio whose mission statement it is to bring quality bite-sized boomer shooter experiences directly to your PC. And when I say bite-size, I mean 1 to 2 hour short gaming experiences priced appropriately, and since it's so short, that's why this video is out here in the garage rather than a full scripted review. Last month, I covered another game of theirs, Flash of the Blade X, and I was fond enough of it that I accepted an offer from studio lead Sam Marshall to get a few more keys for games and review them on this channel. This month's offering isn't developed by DOSman, though, they're just publishing it. Today's game is the first game from developer Twisted Sickle, a one-man act by the name of Emil Levin, whose prior credits include short horror films for Troma Productions. And if you're familiar with that studio, then you've kind of already got an idea for the kind of experience that we're in for with Reverend. I gotta say, when I previewed this game before getting to play it, I already felt myself drawn in by the digitally scanned, photorealistic textures and sprite work, which reminded me of one of those 3DO or Atari Jaguar games that came out during the high popularity days of Mortal Kombat. There's something about these kinds of crunchy, lifelike images that feel both professional and janky all at the same time. Factor in the horror-themed world, twin revolvers, and an Old West flair, and yeah, I was pretty much sold on Reverend before I even had a chance to sit down and play it. Now, imagine my surprise when, after having played it all the way through, I was not only completely immersed in the gameplay and the visuals, but I'm already ready for round 2 to do some secret hunting, and then maybe even hit a third round back to back to back. Now, obviously at this point, I should probably drop the disclaimer that yes, I got this game for free from DOSman Games. Yes, I agreed to make a video and cover the game on my channel, but none of these factors have influenced my thoughts on everything that I'm about to say. If anything, getting this game for free kind of makes me feel a little guilty because this is the kind of gaming experience that we should be supporting monetarily. So, hyping this up is actually the least that I can do in this instance because, holy frick, Reverend is a great little game that you really need to play. Much like Flash of the Blade X, Reverend's draw is that it is a short-form FPS that can last anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half in length. Pros of the genre will probably blitz through the game faster than that, but the brevity here isn't a detractor in the slightest. In fact, it's one of the game's biggest strengths. I was asking myself, while getting ready to do this video, is this a game that is challenging enough? Is this a game that has enough enemies? Is the combat visceral enough? Is it thrilling enough? And one of the things that I kept coming back to, much like with Flash of the Blade X, is that when you're taking in a short-form game like this, I feel like a 1 to 2 hour experience shouldn't be judged on the same level as, say, a Doom or a Quake or an Ultra Kill or a Dusk. And I think the reason for that is because we're not, or shouldn't be, looking at the density of these levels, looking at the challenge of these levels, whether or not you're able to walk in and find yourself pushed to the limit with your skills, because this isn't a game that's trying to do that. Both Flash of the Blade X and Reverend here aren't out there trying to challenge you. They're trying to get you to have some fun. And so for me, approaching it with this review and then in this video, I'm thinking more about older arcade games, older NES games that were there to keep you entertained, to keep the gameplay light and simple. Anybody could pick it up and have a good time with it. So the way that I'm coming at this perspective is this game fun? Is this game entertaining? I'm not looking for challenge here. I'm not looking necessarily for high-paced, energetic combat. I'm just asking myself, is this fun to play and is it engaging? So the simple setup here is that we're playing a character named the Reverend, a twin shooter preacher who's found himself at odds against a cult led by the mysterious archbishop. When the cultists come a-callin', the Reverend needs to deliver a hot lead sermon, and thusly he sets out on a killing spree, carving a path through cultists, strange eldritch monsters, and chilling scenery on his mission to take down the archbishop. Twisted Sickle is clearly drawing inspiration from the classic FPS title Blood, with the Western aesthetics, the strange elder gods, double-barrel shotgun, and even the way that the Reverend delivers his sparse but effective one-liners. There's, I feel like, a good deal of dusk under the hood here influencing things as well. But when the game's lead character is slinging a double-barrel shotty, speaks in hushed whispers, and lives in a town called Monolith City, it's kind of hard not to pick up on the obvious. But where Reverend clearly comes into its own is in the delivery, I feel. Holy shit. Reverend has a real, true, full grasp of its own identity, which shows in every aspect of the visuals and the game's execution. For me, from point one, I was immersed into how lively and vile the world of Reverend was. We were from a park maze to a crematorium chock full of trauma-esque tongue-in-cheek humor, as well as a cemetery with a chilling secret beneath it. Reverend's world is both crisp and lucid, while simultaneously dreamlike and putrid. These graphics are a callback to the day when FMV ruled the PC landscape, and nearly every game that wasn't a point-and-click adventure had to have digital actors and photos scanned in for textures. And the sprites that aren't scanned in, such as the weird, gross creatures that the Reverend encounters, are drawn in such a grotesquely detailed manner as to make them honestly feel like they've been scanned off of real-life monsters. Or maybe even, I would say, scanned off of models, like the maquettes that were used in the creation of Doom, for example. I love the composition of the creatures in this game. They are wholly unique and thoroughly disgusting, and each time a new one showed up, I genuinely said out loud, "What the fuck is this shit?" and promptly went to town on them with the double barrel. There's a few boss fights sprinkled in between missions, which are extra large, extra twisted, gory exercises in creature design that really highlight the developer's prior experiences. Reverend, when firing on all cylinders, feels like the best direct-to-video B-movie horror film that you would find tucked away in a DVD rack at the Come and Go. And due to the brevity of the title, Reverend is often firing on all cylinders. And the throwback feel of the game is present in pretty much every aspect of it. From the aforementioned Atari Jaguar 3DO vibe, to the opening screen, which appears displayed on a old CRT television screen, and the deep 80s synthesizer horror movie MIDI soundtrack playing. This is really designed to give you that back of the shelf rental horror video kind of vibe, and I appreciate that atmosphere viscerally. But the game's visuals and the game's feel are not everything here. The game has to play well, If we're gonna be hyping this, the game has to be playing well. It has to be entertaining, and it has to be engaging from that perspective. And here, I can genuinely say that playing through the game is so much fun that literally by the third map, I already knew I wanted more. The game's controls are tight. The Reverend moves at a single run speed, not too slow, not too fast. There's no press a key to run. There's no press a key to walk. The arsenal is also fine-tuned to perfection. The first weapon that the Rev picks up is his trusty hammer, which is more than enough to smack the word of God into an unholy monster. Next up are the twin revolvers, which fire a lot faster than I imagined that they would, which means that you can empty the chambers quicker than you'd like if you're not paying attention. And since it's two guns that you have to reload instead of just one, it takes a little bit longer to reload these than the other weapons in the game, and that can sometimes bite you in the ass. The star of the show, obviously though, is the double barrel, which can 1 to 2 shot most enemies in the game, which means that if something takes more than 2 shots from the shotty, you really need to take that as a warning to start circle strafing and be worried about the state of your health. One slight criticism I will say about the shotgun is that while the gun shoots 1 shell at a time, sometimes it felt like I was inadvertently firing both shells, one right after the other without meaning to. Reverend's weapons all feel like they're on a bit of a hair trigger at times, which is mostly fine, except in the case of the shotgun. You could empty both barrels when you only want to unload one shell, and then you have to reload on the fly when you meant to have that extra shot for a second enemy nearby. There are 2 very unique weapons here in the game as well, both of which made me giggle. The first up is mystical exploding apples. I shit you not, the Reverend takes a bite out of an apple like he's pulling a pin from a grenade and then throws the apple at an enemy for explosive damage. What the fuck? Oh, it's really neat, tongue-in-cheek, and it's one that I mostly held in reserve for bosses because I wanted to ensure that I kept my explosive firepower on deck for when I needed it. But the final weapon is one that we don't find until closer to the end of the game. It might be possible to find it sooner in a secret area, I'm not sure. I haven't explored that thoroughly yet. But basically, we use a cow skull to unload teeth like bullets into the brains of our enemies. And the ammo is picked up from specific ungodly creatures whose jaws drop on the ground and we pluck the teeth from the bone. Jesus Christ. I really liked this weapon. In fact, the only thing that I didn't really like about it was that it comes so late in the game. But considering that it drops in the last 20 minutes of a 60-minute game, that's really not too bad. I'm really hoping to find it in a secret area in an earlier spot on my next playthrough, though. Now, the weapons are all really solid, and they do the trick, but one thing that took me some getting used to was the weapon slot order. You kids are used to weapon slot orders in other FPS games, and you already know this, but normally, melee weapons are slotted to key number 1 on the keyboard. Pistols are key 2, shotguns key 3. You get where I'm going with this. But here with Reverend, the shotgun is in slot 1. Pistols are in slot 2, hammer slot 3, etc. And this somewhat odd lineup of the arsenal can make scrolling through the weapons a bit tricky at times. Maybe because you've got the shotgun equipped and you want to equip the revolvers, so you scroll to move what you think is going down a slot, going backwards in your inventory. But really, you're actually moving forward all the way back around to the highest tier weapon in your inventory. So now you're throwing an explosive apple at close range and you're killing yourself in the blast, which is not ideal. But after a little bit of time, the slot sequencing sticks in your brain enough to work, even if it remains a crazy, strange feeling throughout. I did contact DOSman Games about this since there's no option to rebind keys in the game. This is just simply an unfortunate side effect of the engine that they're using, in that it automatically slotted the weapons in the order that they were built in the game. So this kind of is how it is. It's not a deal breaker by any stretch, but it is something to be aware of going in. My only other real criticism here is that the game is, unfortunately, a little dark. There's a brightness slider to play with, but it only goes so high, leading me to believe that the darkness of the visuals is an aesthetic choice, which really, that does work to the game's benefit. However, if you, like me, are trying to play the game in the middle of the day with the curtains shut, the slightest illumination in the room can make it difficult to really see what's going on and appreciate the visuals for what they are. The in-game flashlight helps out, but really only to an extent. With that noted, Reverend is a shockingly fun time. A bite-sized hoot and holler horror bonanza that really knows when to be silly, when to be terrifying, and how to leave the gamer wanting more. I said earlier that I was fully on board with DOSman Games' mantra of bite-sized fun because it can be difficult sometimes to find time to play the games that I want to play. I'm a full-time father of 5 with a day job, a partner, and this channel that I'm trying to make videos for. Yet, I played Reverend in just under an hour while my kids were watching YouTube and basking in the air conditioning on the hottest day of the year. I was in and out in no time flat, and I was so entertained that I'm ready to go back in for more, especially since I know I can do so with as little time sink as possible. Reverend made me very happy. I'm a fan of blood and of dusk, and this B-movie variant on that theme is so good that I was actually a little mad that it lasts only an hour. There is, however, a cliffhanger that the game ends on, with a to-be-continued title card and a tease of what's to come, and I have confirmed with DOSman Games that Twisted Sickle is up for a sequel, which, honestly, this world, this character, and the events of this game are just too fucking good to leave alone in a bite-sized experience. Reverend gets an 8.5 out of 10 from me, and in a perfect world, we will get 4 or 5 one-hour entries into the Reverend's Odyssey, and maybe even a little collected package when we're done with it. Well, that's all I've got for this one, kids. Thank you for coming out to the garage with me. Like I said, bite-sized game, bite-sized review, definitely more of a garage video than a full scripted experience. But DOSman has definitely been bringing the heat with the titles I've played so far. And as I said earlier, there's a couple other games on their radar that they're going to be sending my way, and I'm looking forward to playing those, especially now so after Reverend, and putting them on display here in the garage for you. So I'm going to go get back to work to my next scripted video. Like, comment, subscribe, YouTube jazz, sit up straight, eat your vegetables, and by God, stay hydrated. It's so hot out there right now. Enjoy your summer, kids. I'll see you next time.